Everybody, my name's Simon James. Welcome to the Open Door Sanctuary on our Revelation Day. Come on in. We're just starting. There's just some latecomers coming in, so hopefully this feed will work. A bit of a new thing for us. So remember that the spirit is willing, but the internet may be weak. Anyway, come on.
Invite all of you here and those of you that are gathered in this beautiful world of ours to join with us within the one thought. It is a time in which you may reflect within the presence of the Creator. We may call it speech, we may call it the presence, we may call it prayer. But however you approach that divine mind, please join with me in this time of reflection. Loving Creator, we come within this, your sanctuary this morning, joining here in this part of your creation. But within this part, it is but a fraction of the beauty of this world. And it is in that understanding that we are encouraged to remind us that we are indeed a fraction of all that is beautiful within this world. For you truly are a manifestation of your love within creation. We are a reflection of all that you are. And it behoves us to act within that way, to see one another truly as brothers and sisters, to see one another within the soul that we are, and to see one another ultimately as part of a unified whole that is the spirit of your love. And today we celebrate and honor those friends, loved ones, pioneers that helped to share to the world that this understanding that is the spirit. Once more reminds us always that death is truly not the end. But yes, death is not the end. But then it is a reminder that life, that great journey that comes before that transition, is to be lived in all its joy and yes, sometimes its sorrow, to be lived in its laughter and yes, its tears, but it is the gift of life. And in this celebration of the revelation of the Spirit, of the understanding of spiritualism, here this morning, we are in gratitude for all that went before. And may we see their struggle, may we see their work as stepping stones for ourselves, to our future, to always be within the knowledge that you are within and without. Truly, we walk hand in hand with those that came before. But may we be the stepping stones for those that are to follow. And in this, let us be grateful. Let us live. And let us be within the presence of your Spirit. Amen. Amen. This morning, we also welcome those of you that are joining us around the world for our demonstration of healing mediumship. And while our healing mediums are working this morning, I'm going to share a few words with you. So those of you that are at home and sit within your own healing presence, join with us wherever you are within the world, whether it's your morning, afternoon or evening. No matter where you are, we understand and recognize that the Spirit is timeless and is in all places. So join with us in our healing time. Our healers, having prepared, when you're ready, begin your healing ministry. And as we sit, let us take a moment to be within that healing presence. And let us at this moment be conscious of letting go of our thoughts, our feelings, no matter all distractions. But within this moment, recognize that we are in the presence of the divine. That experience that is nameless and yet has 1,000 names. But we know it to be the Creator, the divine presence. And in that divine presence, we surrender and allow that presence to move within our body, bringing wholeness, to be within the thought, and maybe be within that thought of healing, to be within our heart, knowing our heart to be light. But within this moment, let us surrender and be present within the healing spirit. Choosing to relax, to let go, to be. In every thought, feeling, may we be held within the presence of the divine, and may we be whole. Gratitude, we thank our healing mediums for their work. Welcome you all, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to the Open Door in beautiful Victoria, BC. We live in a stunning place, don't we?
Yes.
Now that was an amazing Canadian yes. I was expecting silence. So, fabulous, wow, amazing. And you've joined us all here on a very special day because it's Revelation Day, also known as that time in which we celebrate the birth time, if you will, to a certain extent, of Spiritualism in 1848, and known as Hydesville Day, World Spiritualist Day, but it's also revelation of what we are and who we are. Now, for those of you who are joining us here at the Open Door this morning, this may be your first introduction to this community of spiritualists. And it may be, for those of you who are joining us around the world, your first introduction to what we believe here within this sanctuary. So, what exactly do we do? And I've said this many times before, those of you that live in Victoria, many of you have walked past this building many, many times. And wondered, well, I wonder what goes on in there. Well, thank you for being here, because we're about to tell you and share with you what it is we do. Because here at the Open Door, we are the oldest sanctuary of spiritualist community. We are the oldest teaching centre here in Victoria, in BC. And we are so lucky that we are part of this community that comes together to share what it is to understand the Spirit. So, what exactly are we? Who are we? Well, we are a community first and foremost, and we're a community of spiritualists that come together to share what it is to be human, to understand what it is to live a life of the Spirit, and to come together, and this is the most important thing, to come together within a group. And we're fortunate with technology today that you're part of our family, you're part of our community this morning. Now, spiritualism here within the sanctuary is ancient. A lot of people talk about the birthplace of modern spiritualism at 1848 as if that was when it first appeared in modern times. Well, sort of, but not quite. 1848 was what we like to describe as ultimately the Facebook moment of spiritualism. That's when it went live. That's when it went viral around the world. But communication with the Spirit and a philosophy of communication with the Spirit is thousands of years old. And here within the open door, we follow the roots of ancient spiritualism because that's where we come from. That's where we come from. The modern spiritualist understanding really grew up within the last 170 years. And it was part of that vast wave that took hold around the world that understood that if you're going to change the world, first of all, you're going to have to change yourself. And that's what they did. Now, what do we understand or what do we choose to follow as spiritualists within this community? Well, we follow what are known as the principles, and these have been around thousands of years within their various concepts. They were ultimately codified within modern English in the 19th century. And here within the sanctuary, we have worked within our own interpretation of those principles of the Victorian era, because language changes as we change. So I'm just going to share with you the open doors understanding of the principles of spiritualism. And they are reverent union with the divine, the unity of humankind, communion and communication with the Spirit, the continuous existence of the Spirit, personal responsibility, compensation of all positive and negative thoughts, words, and actions, the path of eternal progression open to all that will to tread it. So, how do we sum up on this special day the philosophy or the philosophical understanding of spiritualism? Well, let's do a demonstration, shall we? First of all, please join with us, wherever you are around the world. If I can get all of you to just look down at the earth and just notice your feet. I'm always frightened to look at mine, but and now if I could ask you to just place your hands over your heart. Just feel that. Okay, so just let go. So, you've got 2 feet, you've got a heartbeat, get on with it. That's it. You're still alive. Fabulous. That's the philosophy of the Spirit. You thought we were going to go all a bit New Agey then, didn't you? No, don't do that here within the open door. We don't have time for fluffy stuff. And spiritualism doesn't have time for fluffy stuff. Spiritualism was ultimately about making this world a better place. The problem with spiritualism today in its perception of understanding is that people misunderstand the difference between mediumship and spiritualism. Because today, there's a medium on every door, a medium on every corner. But mediumship is not spiritualism, because you can be a medium and you can be part of any belief system you want to be. No. Mediumship is not the exclusive understanding of what we believe, not in the slightest. Spiritualism, however, uses mediumship to help us understand that, okay, the Spirit moves, It moved in our healing mediums. It moved in you when you sat within that healing presence. The Spirit moves to inspire and move people to do things. The Spirit moves to enable that other world that is the Spirit to touch a grieving individual and to remind the world that death is not the end. But the problem is, and this is the big problem, if we are obsessed with what comes next, then we have completely missed the point of spiritualism, which was never about that. Spiritualism ultimately was talking about that if we live after death, what are you going to do with the bit that comes before? And here within the sanctuary, it's about recognizing within our ancient philosophy and the understanding of all of the pioneers that came before us, that spiritualism ultimately was about recognizing that you got 2 feet if you're lucky, you got a heartbeat if you're very lucky. And if you're very lucky, what are you going to do with the day that you've got? That's the point. What are you going to do? And I put that out there not as a rhetorical question, but to actually remind us that at this time of Thanksgiving, this time of gratitude for the Spirit, then yes, we can do another demonstration. We can do another 50,000 demonstrations of life after death. But let us honor the pioneers and honor what the meaning of spiritualism is by let's doing a demonstration of life before death. Now, if you can see what I can see, this could be a long morning. So what's your demonstration of life before death like? How's it going? Are you getting a lot of accolades from people going, wow, that was a beautiful demonstration of living? Fabulous. Can I book you? Would you like your own TV show? Would you like a book? What's your demonstration of living like? Where's your evidence of life before death? Are you doing any? Have you got any evidence to prove that you are alive? Again, I rest my case. What are you doing? Because if we're constantly thinking about what comes next, and the next world, the spirit world, because again, complete misunderstanding of spiritualism over really the past 50 years is, let's look to the next world, because the next world is a great place. And I remember meeting a lady years and years ago, when I first began my work, and this was in the UK, and she said to me, Simon, she says, I can't wait to die. And I thought, I thought perhaps she was, seriously ill, or she was suffering, and her life was difficult. I said, why is that? She said, well, my family, my children moved to Australia, and she said, when I die, I'll be able to see them, won't I? Well, it was a bit drastic, but if you wait long enough, we might get Skype or Facebook Live, or But that was so sad to me, because that's a complete misunderstanding of what death is and what that other world is. Because that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Because if we're waiting for tomorrow that everything's going to be better, all we've got is a series of todays that we don't do anything with. That's not spiritualism. Spiritualism constantly said, from its very understanding, from its ancient roots to the explosion in the 19th century, is this world really is not easy. This world has got a lot of challenges. So, okay gang, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do to fix it? Now, won't pick up from where you are, but just on that picture there, we've got photographs and memories of when the Open Door took a bunch of us to pilgrimage. And we did a pilgrimage on the northeastern seaboard. And we went from Canada down through the States. And we went through, if you will, what was known as the burned over country in upper New York State. We went down the Hudson River to where all of our great pioneers stood, demonstrated, worked, shared their power of the Spirit. And that was amazing, and we did that. It was the first ever spiritualist pilgrimage, and we did it, and we honoured our pioneers. How amazing was that? And those of you that came with us, it was fabulous, wasn't it? Amazing. Yes. We went to the tomb of Andrew Jackson Davis. We went where Emma lectured in New York on Broadway. We went all over the place. But the one thing is, and the whole point of this, is that you had people that stood up and said, I'm a spiritualist, not the world is going to be better after you die, but rather I'm a spiritualist, I'm alive, what am I going to do with it? And that was the most amazing thing. That was the most amazing thing. You had a group of people that stood together within our history that said, okay, so how can we change the world? You had Susan B. Anthony, you know, the premier person that brought about, you know, women's rights, women's suffrage in North America, certainly the United States, that actually utilized spiritualist communities to actually stand up and say, I, as 50% of the world's population, have a voice and I have a right to speak. And it was spiritualists that did that. But it wasn't the demonstration of mediumship that changed the world. It was the demonstration of a life that lived, that changed the world. And that's amazing. If it's for me, I'm out. And one of the most amazing things with this is to recognize that power of the Spirit still continues to emanate. And we are so grateful for those that came before us. But we are even more grateful of the example that they gave us to go, okay, we know that there is a life after death. But the problem with that is that the people who are still alive, they're not sure that there is a life before. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with the life that you've been given? How are you going to honor in spiritualism the understanding that to be alive is a gift, not something to be gotten through as fast as possible, but rather to know that you can stand within your own power and celebrate this Revelation Day, this Highsville Day, this World Spiritualist Day, and go, March the 31st, a lot of people heard about us. But on March the 31st, 1848, that was something that had been going on for thousands of years. But the reminder was one small thing. Death is really easy. You generally only have to do it once. Now, living, there's the challenge. There's the demonstration of what God, the Creator, the Divine Presence is. So, evidence of a life after death is amazing. But it's not as important as the evidence you are making of the life before.
One of the things that we often seem to be missing within sort of where we are, within the very movement of the Spirit, is understanding that it's human consciousness that moves the world. And within the revelation that often we celebrate at this time of year is a progression of movement of consciousness. And that's really what our philosophy is about. The technology that we're using today, those of you who have cell phones, or whether you're on Facebook in Australia, United States, England, Europe, etc., actually has its root in our philosophy, from Marconi, who participated in spiritualism, to Edison, who embraced spiritualism until there was a lot of fraudulent mediums on every single corner acclaiming and espousing that they were contacting the dead. But before that, his participation actually and his enthusiasm moved him forward, as did Tesla, to try and find a machine to communicate with the spirit world so the whole world would truly know what our movement was trying to do. That firstly, no one is forsaken in the sight of the Creator. I think that's fantastic. But secondly, in that is, now you know that, what are you going to do about it? what are you going to do about your life? Because you know what? No one gets ahead of the line. No one gets a special badge, although there are still religions and even individuals within the modern New Age movement that think they're going to get ahead of the line in their importance after death. But our tradition encourages the reality as the revelation was that we are celebrating today. That no one is higher than, lower than, everyone is equal to. And so what are we going to do? Now, we were at one point in the fore of the women's movement, of child welfare laws, of environment, of the peace movement. One of the first people to actually be recognized for a peace prize or nominated was a spiritualist. Every time you have a weekend, whatever your weekend is, whether it's midweek, it's because of a spiritualist. Every time you pick up a cell phone, it's because of a spiritualist. Every time you watch the TV, it was the inspiration out of a seance by a spiritualist. Every time you use, for those of us who have universal health care, it's because of a spiritualist, which the gentleman is behind on that wall, his portrait, because we honor all those who are movers and shakers. Every time you think of evolution and DNA, it's because of a spiritualist. And what are we doing now? Because no one gets ahead of the line. Because self-importance ends when you die. The importance begins when you die. Because what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, is for you to shine in the moment of the creation that you are, that it's been bestowed in its beauty. You have something that in this moment in time the world is asking you to offer. Your essence, your soul, your consciousness, your spirit, your belonging, your God, however you want to put it, is asking you to stand up and do something. To stand up and be you. The world changes because of normal, average human beings who decide to be who they are, not who they think they are. How many of us have been encouraged within a society to be something that we're not? We belong to a society that encourages one that we are only special when this and this and this happens. Well, if you want to believe in that, then get your self-esteem in order. Because you have value now. And as long as you're worried about how you identify with the outside world and not identify with the value of your creation, we cannot move the world within a philosophical structure nor on an individual level. As long as you decide that you want a talent to make you feel good, then I'm going to tell you that that talent's going to make you feel bad. Because that relies on the opinion of the outside world. And every single time you decide that you need accolades from the outside world, then the contrast of that is judgment from the outside world. Because you cannot have one without the other. But when we allow ourselves the wholeness of our nature and see the beauty of creation, then we do amazing things. Our tradition had nothing to do with the promotion for everybody to be a medium, but rather for everybody to be a human being. And in that humanness, greatness happened. Because greatness in your life awaits you to be great. If you're going to compare yourself to Brad Pitt or Kim Kardashian, go right ahead. If you're going to compare yourself to something that you consider that was important to you, like getting straight A's in school, and you were not the smart one in the family, go right ahead. That you didn't marry into a wealthy family or ended up being wealthy, so therefore you are nothing, go right ahead. But the talent that you have and what this philosophy asks you to do is to be you. Because the world needs you. And the world needs you because you've got a story when you allow the healing of the story. And when you allow the healing of your life, whether it be rich, poor, illness, bankruptcy, it doesn't matter. When you're integral with your story and you bring it into balance and healing, you do a powerful thing. You are an example of healing for others. You're an example of moving this world. You're an example of making this life a little more richer and a little more beautiful. Because once you have your verification of life after death, what then? What then? For the great message of our tradition is to live life now. And if you are trying to find self-importance in something that somebody's going to judge because of a self-esteem problem, then think again. Because what matters is the perfection that you are. I have said this for many, many years. You are perfectly imperfect. And where you are perfect is in the nature and the talent that you personally have. Where you are imperfect is in the areas that you do not need. I might want to sing. I think, oh, I'd love to sing, but my voice ain't there. So I can either focus on and maybe find some therapist to go through that one. Or I can realize that I may have another attribute that I do have pleasure in as well. I may still sing and recognize that some of us might go, turn that down. And that's okay. I may want to paint. But as long as I'm recognizing my passion of painting and taking it to its level, then I find the nurturing peace that it gives me. If I think it needs to be in the outer world on display, and that is the greater need, then oftentimes what we're inviting is disappointment. For we do not recognize what we do and why we do it and the value of it. You know, we're heading, this organization is heading to its 150th year. And it's been teaching here for almost as long as that. Isn't that fantastic? 150 years coming up. And there were people here even 15 years ago when they'd come for classes or come for sessions here. Sometimes the sanctuary was surrounded by those of a different faith. Sometimes they literally filled the stairs while we were inside because they thought we were wrong. But all I saw were the people inside who were actually very brave. In the 60s, there were people in this city who were told, well, you know, you won't get ahead if you keep on going to that place. Our tradition has known discrimination in so many different ways. Known difference in so many ways. Historically, if you look at some of the readings and the studies when spiritualists started actually standing up and creating venues for the movement of equality of women in the West, there was damnation from countries persecution from countries. And yet they still did it. Not because they were eager to get a message every week, but rather because they woke up to the true message of the communication. And that was to live and be and make a difference. Live and be and make a difference. I've been blessed in so many ways watching people come through here. And I am amazed, especially for those individuals who I have loved and I have lost in this community over the last 40 years, that they come at an age where, oh, I'm getting a little too old to do anything. And yet, I have seen that late blossom bloom into its sweet fragrance to aid and serve the people around them, because they come to a point of finding peace within themselves. They recognize that within a community they have something to offer. Whether it be a loss of a child, a cancer, a challenge of being a single mom or a single parent in any way, or from poverty to security, to addiction. You are participating in a celebration today that we recognize those great pioneers who weren't mediums, because mediums really were just secondary to our movement and always have been. Unfortunately, that's misunderstood today. It was the communication that moved the greatness. That communication that created universal health care, that created education for children, that created technology, that aided in the theory of evolution. All those magical things that were moved forward from those individuals who participated in bettering life for all, in whatever way. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this life is not just about you, and it never will be. If it was, you'd live forever in this world. This life is about connectedness. This life is about recognizing whatever you have experienced in, the world needs. The world needs your ingenuity, your understanding, your observation. As many of you, as you already know, Bill W., the founder of AA that went into actually a lot of different addiction therapies. Where did he come from? He was a spiritualist. He was a medium. He didn't use his mediumship. He used the philosophy of spiritualism to create the 12 principles with his partner. He didn't create it from the spirit world. He created it from its philosophy, one step at a time. Our importance has never truly been that of just contacting the spirit, but rather contacting the living and saying, no matter what you think of yourself, you're important. No matter what you think your life is, it is not. No matter what chaos you create for yourself, because you are afraid to heal, because it's safer to be in chaos, isn't the reality. Your talent, your nature, and your beauty is. We will always attract those who are in need of service, of connection, of love lost. And that service will always be there. But we are here to say to everyone, after you have that connection of love lost, find that which nurtures you to the very soul existence of your creation. You are here to move this world forward. And we as spiritualists, whether you're in our community on a regular basis or your first time, we challenge you to do that. Because in 2 generations, you won't be missed. Two generations, that's all it takes. No one goes, geez, I miss Caesar. Doesn't happen. He may be a part of history, but we're certainly not grieving him. So think again. But what you leave is the very act that you are. For it is a ripple of energy, of action that makes a difference. Whether it's healthy or unhealthy, that's up to you. You can break the bonds of pain and suffering from a legacy of generations of family to be whole and be that ripple for generations to come. You can embrace your very nature in your process of healing only to be encouragement to somebody else while you're living to do the same. Only to carry on in a ripple like a pebble in a pond for generations to come. That's what we keep here. That's what we do here. That power of our action that has a great rippling effect. That choice of healing, that choice of kindness, that choice of who we are, that rippling effect. Stop worrying about what anybody else is doing and start embracing what you are, that rippling effect. For that is our greatness as human beings. That's how we make a difference. It is the mother who never got an education because she was a woman, because she was secondary, who encourages her children to go, I want you to get an education. You're going to university whether you like it or not. And makes a difference. It is a father who comes from poverty or the carnage of war, who works very hard even through his challenges of war and sometimes addiction, that tries to put food on a table in the hopes that his children will have a better life. And they do. That is a rippling effect. We are in the 21st century, and we have been blessed by war. We've been blessed by abundance. We have been blessed by sometimes what we think is a right, such as health care, such as equality, such as a bus service. And yet all of it is a privilege. What are you going to do about it? You and I, you see, are the ripple of generations to come. Our tradition, although in many religions they die within 250 years unless they have a strong foundation, and whether spiritualism dies in 250 years and follows the pattern of history will be irrelevant. But right now, the relevance is encouraging a life well lived. So, you have the strength to live a life well lived. Will you?
And after our service today, we do invite you downstairs through this door. And this will be for joining us for community time, coffee, tea, bagels. It is a wonderful time for you to meet us and for us to meet you. And on your way down, perhaps you can look at this wonderful display being created. And this beautiful flower arrangement here is on the table, which was donated to the church. It's made from one of the doors of the original school that the Fox sisters went to, where they lived in Hydesville. For information, please see our bulletin board at the back. It is just chock-a-block full of all these events that are going on. We have a brand new spring calendar, and the sunshine indicates that it is spring, finally. It can be upstairs or downstairs. We also have a couple of websites, and we are on Facebook, which is an active expression of the sanctuary. And for courses and information in regard, you can look at our Inner Quest Foundation website for that. And if you have any questions regarding these events and other similar things at the sanctuary, you can talk to anybody wearing name tag, pins. They'd be glad to help, or you can check with us after the service at the information table. Now over here in the back, we have our card and book center, where we feature many hard to obtain books beyond mediumship, spiritualism, philosophy, and the like. And we do offer a special book of the month, and I shall now call on Reverend James to talk about the book of the month.
One of the,
You can have your glasses.
I can have my glasses back. Thank you, John. It's a terrible thing, and I'll pretend not to use them, but I will use them. I think we all do, don't we? They're just a fashion item, really. One of the things that we do here within the Open Door is that we always push the boundaries and push spiritualism forward. One of the things that we noticed for the longest time, saying forever, is that there were really no books that had been created that encapsulate the words of all of the great workers of the past into an anthology where we could actually use them and read them and actually be inspired by them. By today, you can find every other book out there encapsulating all of the great traditions of the spirit of their own, but nothing within spiritualism. So, in the great spiritualist tradition of stop whining and do something about it, we did it. And actually, we did it through a wonderful author, and that was Deborah Skelton, because Deborah Skelton put together echoes, teachings from the past, wisdom for the present. And these are literally the words of our pioneers encapsulated in modern day English that we can actually use, work with, and actually have a meaningful relationship with. So actually our history comes alive. And so we're really, really proud. It's part of Inner Quest Press. We're thrilled that it's been successful here in Canada and also around the world. And it's the first ever spiritualist anthology. So well done to Deborah Skelton, author. I'm sure if you are interested in obtaining one, she'll be happy to sign copies for you afterward. And if you are interested, she'll sign copies and we can get them to you wherever you are. So no worries there. So Echoes, Teachings from the Past, Wisdom for the Present, and that can be found at our Book and Card Centre after the service. So these songs that we're singing today, we keep them just for our special days, which is obviously this celebrates the rebirth of modern spiritualism. And so the songs that we've chosen, obviously, are traditional spiritualist hymns. Traditional spiritualist hymns. So we're honouring our pioneers, and of course, obviously, God of the Granite was created by Lizzie Doughton, one of the great speakers and improvisatrices, which is a wonderful word that you might want to introduce into your regular speech. And they were amazing orators because they were moved by the Spirit to speak within poetic form and inspired. So Lizzie Doughton, God of the Granite, it's a great song. So we're honouring our pioneers today because we only sing them in special times throughout the year, but these hymns are kept for our day of remembrance, our day of thanksgiving for our pioneers. And so if you will, particularly those of you that are joining us around the world, these songs, we're kicking it old school, okay? So a lot of the songs that we're using today, we keep just to honour our pioneers of yesteryear. So, who knows? In the future, our pioneers will be honouring and now we're honouring one of our great pioneers, Katy Perry. One of the great improvisatrices of the 21st century. Absolutely. So, there you go. So, this part of the service is the demonstration of mediumship. Now, the wonderful thing is that always people talk about I'm a spiritualist medium or I'm a spiritual medium, and they go, I'm going to give you a demonstration of evidence of life after death. No, they're not, because you can't give evidence. Never could, never will. Because if there was scientific proof, our world would be completely different. What we do is give an experience that you utilize for your own evidence of your own people. That's all we can ever do. And as mediums, evidential mediums, all we can do is underline I love you. Now, obviously, I'm sure those of you that are watching around the world and also in this room, you're really hoping for your loved ones in the world of the spirit to come. Of course, time and circumstance doesn't allow. Some of you around the world will want to go to sleep. Some of you are trying to wake up, wherever you are. But what happens is that ultimately you do not need a medium to tell you that you are loved or that your people are there. All we can do is underline it, because everyone in this room, everyone who's watching on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are, your people are with you. And they are saying to you, I love you, live. Give me your evidence of life before death, because the best way you can say, I still love you, and for me to know that I am still here, is for you to live. That's the best evidence you can give your people in the world of the spirits. And so all we do this morning is just underline, I love you. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, as I said, we're not going to get to all of you here this morning, but please know, whether we speak to you or whether we don't, you are loved. And you don't need a very, young, handsome, bearded man to tell you that. Sometimes you just got to try, haven't you? So do speak to us if you understand the information that we're working with, and do enjoy the service. I want to come towards the back there. I'm just on at the end there, because I just kept on feeling the presence of a mother. Okay, but I felt as if that mom should be in the world of the spirit. Does that make sense? Okay, I've got mom in the spirit. Can I also tell you, and I don't know why, but I know, because we're not, well, say not that far away, I wouldn't want to walk it, but can I also take you to Mexico or Central America? Because I don't know why this is, and I'm not saying that your mom went there, but would you know why I keep seeing pyramids? Or, I say Mexican pyramids, but that type of thing, that architecture.
My daughter was recently at the pyramids.
Oh, that'll do. That's fine. Yeah, just a few weeks ago. Fabulous. We'll take that as a yes. Great. Good. Okay, because and Mum's in the spirit. Fantastic. Because just as Mum touched my mind, I kept getting a connection to pyramids, and I thought that's funny because you don't see a lot in Victoria. But I just kept on seeing that, and so can I just talk to you then? That's fabulous. So. Because the microphones, it's that model's ancient of phone. Okay, so it's a 6, so it won't pick up your voice. So we might need just to hear your voice a little bit. Okay, because as I'm just aware of Mom, she just touched my mind there. And first of all, I want to talk to you about the need to have family together, because it seems as if that Mom's been around family. Now I know you just shared with you your daughter's been with the pyramids. And obviously Mom is just giving us that information to say I was with her. But I want to put all the girls together, can I say that?
Absolutely.
Because at the moment, Mom has needed to say, well, the girls are here, and I'm with you, all right? Because she keeps on talking about the healing, the group together, where, as a family, you have been instrumental in creating that healing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great, lovely. Because this is the way. I like your mum. She was a character, wasn't she? You know, she really was. And the interesting thing is, now I know this may be a stereotype, I do want to talk about flowers here. I do want to talk about beauty, all right? Now, I don't know whether you'd remember this, but where you would have lived, and Mom, do you know, and this is, where's our flower people? Please help me. I keep seeing like, it's a spring flowering bush, and it's like, camellia. It's like a green thing with a red flower. It's the Latin name is Greenus redus, I believe. But I know I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing cherry blossoms. Okay, so I know these were where we would have lived. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. Because I just feel as if these are memories of mums, and springtime is a special time here. Does that make sense to you? Because this is where I want to go. Now, can I tell you here, now I know John mentioned it because it's coming up, but there must be art here as well. Can I talk to you about art?
Yes.
Because, well, can I then talk to you about watercolours?
Yes.
Good, because we've got a class coming up. Sorry, because it pays to advertise or something. But would you understand my mum would talk about that? And now, I don't know whether it's you that does the watercolours or it's a family member, but I keep seeing this because I'm seeing, again, these exquisite flowers. I'm just seeing here images being created with watercolours that mum talks about. Okay. Can I also tell you, I know that there were passings with cancer to the spirit as mum's talking. I know also as well, and just before I hand over, would you think for me as well where Dorothy would fit in? Because mum keeps on talking about knowing Dorothy. Does that make sense?
Yes, there were two.
Two. Okay, great. Because I know I just want to talk about Dorothy. I know there's a connection there with mum.
But one of the Dorothys would have been a pie maker. And because your mother's also talking about making pie. And she's also given me sheriff's lemon pie. Would you understand that? You know the lemon mix, the sheriff's lemon mix?
Yes.
She's giving me a memory of that. Not that she couldn't bake it from scratch, but I'm just seeing the sheriff's lemon mix. I'm also got the name Marion for you. And Marion was, Miriam was somebody that she knew. I'm also being brought to the prairies, please.
Yes.
Yes? Good. Because I also know there's a number of family members I have to go to Manitoba, and this is distant relatives, and then I have to go more into the sort of wheat belt of the prairies. If I'm correct on this, there must be a Eastern European connection with the family.
Yes.
Thank you. Because if we actually look at the family history, I know that there were quite a few family members that started to immigrate in the sort of 1920s approximately. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Because if we actually follow the family tree, I've got them immigrating to Manitoba, I've got them immigrating to Saskatchewan and Alberta. So we're kind of spread about. Now, because there was more of you than meets the eye. But can you understand a Siberian or a connection to the family?
Yes.
Thank you. Because your mother's talking about that the history actually has roots in Siberia. I know that there is also a very indigenous history here as well. And this has to do with your mother understanding herbs or medicine or old things that her mother or her grandmother did. Would you understand that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Because as I give you that, I also know this, that you come by your healing honestly. You come by your healing honestly. Meaning that there is a line from Siberia all the way down in the animal or the physical part of you, but spiritually I also know that there would have been interest in health and healing. And part of it is also keeping the family together, because your mother had to keep the family together as well. I have a gentleman here who used to smoke Export A.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm just kind of filling up the whole room with Export A. And I actually know that I would have rolled them at one point. Would you understand that?
Absolutely.
They kind of had thin here and thick at the top, and sometimes the ash would stay. Now, I have to say there's a lot of love here and a lot of emotion here. And you understood me, didn't you? Yeah. So what I want to say is thank you for understanding me, because not everybody in the family understood me. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I'm so proud that you've gone much further than I could have ever done. I could have ever done. I have to say that from him. Because he's just kind of in the wings because Mom needs to get the girls all together. Because I tell you, she was very good with a fry pan to hit somebody over the head. You don't know that. I also need to give you the name Ed or Edward.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And I also need to say to you, you know, it's okay to sort of have a Sunday fry. Would you understand that? It's a memory. Thank you. So in memory, let's have a Sunday fry from time to time, okay? Because it's a love thing. It's you know, in the life's moments, there are times when family used to gather and they may have been so simple or gone unnoticed, but it was important to some of those who have gone before you. And so when we do that, you know, just have, you can come and do a Sunday fry here anytime you want. A few of us and enjoy that. But I also have to give you, I believe it's the Saskatchewan River. Would you understand Edmonton, please? Thank you. Would you also understand, who's the pierogi maker?
There are several.
Aha. Okay. So after this contact, because I feel as if I'm also going in that community is going to be very, very important to you in the next few years. I've been making some decisions. There's some thoughts of movement that your mother's telling me that you've either discussed or been talking about. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, because don't hesitate. We need to go where we need to go and be where we need to be, because it's another phase that we're going in. You're very aware of that. Mother's been listening because you've actually tried to encourage people around you or hint that you're on the move. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Who's in broadcasting, please? Broadcasting. Who's connected to broadcasting? Because there's something about broadcasting here. There's something about, I'll tell you what this is. This has to do with a bit of activism, or has to do with your mother's talking about voice or change or activism. If you don't quite get it, I don't mean to let you carry a bag it or leave it, but there's someone in the family who's just about to get active somehow, and there's more to it than meets the eye. And it needs to be followed. Okay? All right. One last thing is that she said when family is using creativity, I am there. Okay? Because it's a thread. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a message for us all from the pioneers themselves, taken from the book Echoes. And this is from Emma Hardinge, Britain. And Emma said, "Spiritualism is a living, vital religion, for it belongs to no age, no country, and no special class of mind. It is the acknowledgement of the spiritual origin of all things and the unfoldment of those mystic ties that bind the soul to its author. For it discloses to us the nature, quality, possible destiny, and absolute relation of the human soul to immortality. For spiritualism requires that every deed shall be an act of prayer, and every thought a form of worship." And as always, each service we dedicate our service to a pioneer of spiritualism that brought us to this point, and that we will take it forward into the future. So today we honour all pioneers of spiritualism on this special day, and we look forward on March 31st at the reminder, if you will, that Facebook moment of when the knowledge that death holds no terror, and therefore life holds all love, was given to us. So today we honour all pioneers of spiritualism, those that came before, those today, and those that are yet to come. Divine presence. It is in gratitude that we leave this service, and wherever we may find ourselves within this your creation, may we shine within your beauty, may we be present within your love, and know that we are the pioneers of our lives, for we have been given a gift. May we use it well, and may we remember always that you live within and around us. Until such time as we join the worlds of the Spirit together, as always, let us be with you, within your care and within your keeping. Amen.
Amen. Have a seat for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're on your way, we hope you create a wonderful week for yourself. But if you're joining us through this door down for community time, and like I said, you can have a brief look at this marvelous Revelation Day poster that we've made here. We thank you very much for your presence today.
And I'd just like to thank those of you that have joined us on social media. We hope that you've enjoyed our service. We are going to be doing this more in the future. And thank you for being part of this service wherever you are around the world. And one day, may we see you here physically within this place, the Open Door. Thank you. Have a great day.